Cool. All right, it's preparing. I think it's rock and roll on YouTube. Just wait till it clicks over. It's looking good, looking good. So if you're on YouTube, feel free to type into the chat any answers you have. This will be quite interactive. What we're going to look at is verbs. We're going to look at 4 types of present verbs, right? Verbs are really crazy in English, and I want to clear them up. I've been thinking about them for a long time, literally thinking about them for years. Why is that not working? Cool. All right, just let me straighten my camera up here. Okay, fine. Right. Welcome to this core skills lecture on grammar. In this one, we're going to talk about using verbs. We've started looking at verbs. In this one, we're going to talk about how to describe the present. Basically, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to split it up by time. So verbs verbs relate to past, present, or future. So what we're going to do each week for the next 3 weeks is look at verbs relating to a different time aspect. In this one, we're going to look at present, verbs that change to indicate something about the present or now. Verbs are a bit weird, they're a bit philosophical, so please keep an open mind for this one. It's logical, but it's not like mathematics. It makes you think about time and space and stuff like that. That's what language does, and it's pretty cool. That's why I like it. So, first of all, we learned last time that verbs change, right? Verbs change in English, we know that. In fact, there are 12 verb tenses. Each one has an active and passive, so that's 24. Not only that, each one has a positive, negative, and a question form. So 24 times 3 is 60, 72. Whoa, one verb can change 72 times, right? That's pretty crazy considering there are about 20,000 verbs in English. There's an easy way to do this, and this is what we're going to do. So verbs change to show when something happens, happened, or will happen. For example, look at this dentist appointment on the 8th at 2 p.m. This could be in the past, right? And you're talking about it. So you need a verb to describe when you visited the dentist, for example. Or this dentist appointment might be tomorrow. So you need a verb to describe the future. And you say that you will visit the dentist tomorrow. Or the appointment might be right now, and you might say, I am going to the dentist right now. I am visiting the dentist now. So that's why we need verbs, because they change to indicate when something happened, happen, or will happen, for example. They split time up into 3 sections, past, present, and future. So let's look at this verb here, produce. And we can use it like this. The UK produces the highest amount of food waste. Or the UK produced the highest amount of food waste. So that slight difference between produces and produced puts a message in my brain that you're talking about the past. Or the UK will produce the highest amount of food waste. Or the UK is producing the highest amount of food waste. Or was producing the highest amount of food waste. Or will be producing the highest amount of food waste. Or the UK has produced. Or the UK had produced. Or will have produced. Or has been producing. Or had been producing. Or will have been producing. Whoa! So why so many changes? Why? Well, because of this. We need to show when. So there are subtle differences in English verbs. Maybe in your language, sometimes some languages don't show time in the verb. They use adverbs to show when. But English, we change the verb to show when, past, present, or future. So they change to show when something happens, happened, or will happen, like the dentist appointment. Today, we're going to talk about describing the present. Okay, let's go back. We're going to talk about this one here. How to describe this one here. We're going to save this for next week and this one the week after. In this lesson, we're going to look at describing things in the present as they are, right? So here's a task. I want you to identify the verb that refers to the present. Cool. Well done, Sujaya. Good, Baljit. Good, Bharat, Asama, Maryland. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Yes, you guys are getting good at identifying verbs. Good, sweetie Darak. Well done. Cool. And make sure you get that spelling right. Right. So, receive. Cool. Do it again. Please identify the verb that refers to the present. Remember that verbs can have two parts. I want you to do both of the parts. Verbs can have one word or two words or even three words, even four words sometimes. In this verb has two parts. What are those two parts? Good, Asama. Good, Prudvi. Good, Amir. Good, Hitishaban. Good, Maris. Good, Ruth. Good, Shoba. Yes. Cool. Are studying. That's a verb that refers to the present. Researchers are studying the causes of premature aging. Sweet. Let's do another one. Identify the verb that refers to the present. Good. Nice, nice, nice. Yes, Million. Good, Marilyn. Good, Jyoti. Good, Lynn. Correct. So astronomers have identified some of the oldest stars in the galaxy. Sweet. One more. Identify the verb that refers to the present. This verb has three parts. Good, Andrea. Good, Mihul. Good, Path. Good, Hitashaben. Hitishaben. Cool. Yes. NASA's Curiosity rover has been exploring Mars. That's a verb, one of four that refers to the present. Sweet. So when we're describing the present, there are four ways to do it. Four types of verbs. For example, astronomers identify new stars. Astronomers are identifying new stars. Astronomers have identified new stars. And astronomers have been identifying new stars. These are the four. So if you want to talk about the present, you will use one of these four verbs. That's it. This is good. This is good because it's made it easier for our brains to understand. Because now we know if we're writing about the present, we have to use one of these. That's the first step. That's the first step to get right. The second step to get right is to think about which one. Because why are there four verbs to show the present? Well, the four present verbs have different meanings, right? They have slightly different meanings, some of them quite distinctly different meanings. They all refer to the present, but there's a different purpose for them. So we need to understand which one to use. For example, if we just use the basic verb like identify, this is a factual, complete, and permanent statement. I'm going to go through these one by one and show you what I mean, and it will start to make sense. But if we use this one, is verbing, like is identifying, or astronomers are identifying new stars, this is current and it's temporary. So it has a different meaning to this one here. And if we use this one, have verb, like Astronomers have identified new stars. This is referring to the past, but it's currently relevant. And this one, astronomers have been identifying new stars, is prior, it's currently relevant, but it's incomplete. So let's look at them one by one. The first one we're going to look at are the factual, complete, and permanent events. Factual, complete, permanent. These are the adjectives that you need to remember to know these verbs. Here are some example sentences. Please read them to yourself. While you're reading them to yourself, think about how they're factual, complete, and permanent. I'll give you 30 seconds. Cool. All right. So let's look at the verb here. Modify, explore, destroy, report, split, find. This is the most basic verb. Okay. Now we use this one to refer to the present because it refers to a fact. It's complete and it's permanent. It's ongoing. Yes, it's in the present, but it's also ongoing into the future, and it was also in the past as well. So biologists modify viruses. Factual, complete, permanent. Investigators explore new theories. Factual, complete, permanent. Earthquakes destroy cities. Factual, complete, permanent. Scientists report important discoveries. Factual, complete, permanent. Physicists split atoms. Factual, complete, permanent. Archaeologists find new tombs. Factual, complete, and permanent. Cool. Have a look at this sentence. Identify the factual, complete, and permanent event. What's the verb there that indicates factual, complete, and permanent? Not bodies, Prudvi. What's the verb? The do word. Yes. Factual, complete, permanent, burn. Our bodies burn calories. This is a fact. It's complete, as in I'll show you later what that means. And it's permanent. It just always does it, right? Our bodies burn calories. So we just use this verb for that. Cool. Let's move to the next verb, which is current, temporary. Okay, it describes events that are current but temporary. So current and temporary. I want you to read these and think to yourself, think about how these events are current, now, present, but temporary, okay? I'll give you 30 seconds. Cool. So you can understand, you can feel the meaning. You can feel the meaning, right? It's not something that you think about. It's something that you feel. So this is current, but it's temporary. Biologists are modifying a virus. They're doing it now, but it's not going to continue into the future. They're just doing it now. Maybe tomorrow they'll finish, okay? So biologists are modifying a virus. Investigators are exploring a new theory. Earthquakes are destroying a city. Scientists are reporting an important discovery. Current, temporary. Physicists are splitting an atom. Current, temporary. These sentences are the same as the ones before, but the verb has changed, and so the meaning has changed. The meaning has changed from something that was factual and permanent to something that is current and temporary, just by changing the verb. Archaeologists are finding new tombs. Cool. So Please identify the current temporary event. Yes. Yes, that's right. Good. That's right. So the current but temporary, engineers are researching how to improve unmanned cars. So it could say engineers research how to improve unmanned cars, which would be factual and permanent. But because we've changed the verb a little bit, it's still in the present, but it has a different meaning. And engineers are researching now makes it current yet temporary. It will have an end. Cool. Let's think about this one. This one is an interesting one because this is the one that a lot of people find difficult to understand, difficult to conceptualize. Yes, this is what they call the present perfect. It's a stupid name. Well, kind of stupid name. It does have some meaning. Let's think about it differently. Let's think about this verb as being prior, like just happened or happened in the past. It's still present because it's currently relevant. Okay, so it's prior, happened in the past, but it's currently relevant. Let me talk you through these ones. So prior, currently relevant. So biologists have modified a virus. So maybe they did it yesterday or last week. So it was in the past, but now it's become currently relevant. So it still has importance in the present, right? So biologists have modified a virus. Investigators have explored a new theory. So you can see that it's happening from the past, but it's coming to the present. And it's important now. It's relevant, currently relevant. Earthquakes have destroyed a city. Maybe the earthquake was last night, but the relevance is now. Scientists have reported an important discovery. Maybe they did it this morning, but it's relevant now. Physicists have split an atom. Relevant now. Archaeologists have found a tomb. So please identify the prior, currently relevant event. Cool. Good one. Yes, engineers have built the fastest motor to date. So it's prior, currently relevant. Maybe they built it, I don't know, 2 months ago, but it's being talked about now. It's being reported now, for example. So it's currently relevant. Cool. One more. This is the fourth verb that relates to the present. And it also has a different meaning to the other ones. It's prior, it's currently relevant, but it's incomplete. It's incomplete. That's the difference here. So prior, currently relevant, but incomplete. Please spend 30 seconds reading this. This tense is called the present perfect continuous because it's incomplete. It's not finished. All of these actions, finding, splitting, reporting, are not finished. So that's why it has a bit of a difference. Cool, let me read them. So biologists have been modifying a virus. So listen to the difference. Biologists have modified a virus. It's complete, it's finished. Versus biologists have been modifying a virus. It's ongoing, it's incomplete, it's still happening. So there's a difference in meaning there. The difference is that one is complete and the other one isn't complete. Investigators have been exploring a new theory. Earthquakes have been destroying a city. Scientists have been reporting discoveries. Physicists have been splitting atoms. Archaeologists have been finding new tombs. Cool. Right, please identify the prior, currently relevant, and incomplete event. That's crazy, but please, what is that verb? Whoa, that's wrong. I didn't change that one. Let's see if it's on the next. Oh, here it is here. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Physicists have been looking for the universe's dark matter. Have been looking. There it is there. Physicists have been looking for the universe's dark matter. Not have looked for, because that means it's over. They have been looking. They're still looking for the universe's dark matter. It's prior, happened in the past, but it's currently relevant, and it's also incomplete. Right. That's kind of tricky. How are you supposed to remember that? Well, I think we need to continue to understand the differences in meaning of the verbs. And a good way to do that is to put the two verbs side by side and look at the difference in meaning. That's a good way to do it. So let's do that. So let's put these present verbs side by side. So let's compare these two. Let's compare just the verb, the basic verb, like identify, versus is identifying. So let's compare a factual, complete, and permanent statement versus a current but temporary statement. For example, here's a very simple example. I live in Melbourne. Factual, complete, and permanent, right? Versus, listen to the meaning, the difference in meaning here. I am living in Melbourne. I live in Melbourne. I am living in Melbourne. One indicates permanence, something that's permanent. And the other one indicates something that's temporary. Please type into the chat, using I live, tell me where you live, and tell me if it's, you choose the verb according to if where you're living is permanent or where you're living is temporary. Please type into the chat and tell me where you live. Right, so Divya lives in Bangalore, it's permanent. Milind is living in Brisbane, so it's temporary. Shobha's living in Melbourne, cool. Barclay's living in Chennai. Marilyn lives in Jakarta permanently. Maris is living in Dubai temporarily. Cool. Andrea lives in the Philippines permanently. Feng Hui is living in Melbourne temporarily. Cool. And Jo Marie is living in Canberra temporarily. Deepak lives in India permanently, etc. Cool. That's good. I like that. One's permanent, one's temporary. So we use a different verb. They both relate to the present, but we use a different verb to convey even more meaning that's behind the verb live. Cool. So first task, I'm going to give you two sentences. I want you to identify the sentence that is factual, complete, and permanent, that relates to something that's permanent. So which one of these is a permanent? One or two? Which one is the permanent, the factual, complete, and permanent one? Cool. Too easy. Yes, the factual, complete, and permanent verb here is that sociologists use census data to make decisions. This is something that, well, it's a fact, it's complete, it's permanent. Good. Let's do the opposite one. Please identify the current but temporary, current and temporary verb. Cool. Pretty easy, that's good. So the current but temporary verb here is psychologists are searching for early markers of autism spectrum disorder. Cool, fine. Let's compare two more. Let's compare the factual, complete, and permanent verb, just the basic verb. Let's compare that with the have identified, for example, the prior but currently relevant one. For example, look at these two examples again. I live in Melbourne. This is a permanent thing. Versus I have lived, well, I should change that. Let's say I'll change that to I have lived in Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Okay, so it was prior, but maybe it's currently relevant. So type into the chat somewhere where you have lived. Where have you lived? Not where you currently live. Cool, so Eshwa's lived in Vietnam. Sujaya's lived in New Jersey. Divya's lived in Tucson. Dua's lived in Saudi Arabia. Mihul's lived in Bali. Cool, people have lived in Mumbai, USA. Right. Cool, so that was where you have lived is prior, but maybe it's currently relevant because you're talking about New Jersey, for example, and you say, oh, I've lived in New Jersey. So it's prior, but now it's currently relevant. Cool, so please identify, first one, please identify the factual, complete, and permanent verb. Right, correct. Good. Everybody got that right. That's good to see. Right, so the factual, complete, and permanent verb is that children show developmental differences early, should say early in life. Sorry, my mistake, early in life. Children show. Right, let's compare that. Please identify the prior but currently relevant verb. The prior but currently relevant verb. Good. Well done. Correct. The currently relevant one. It happened in the past, prior, but it's currently relevant now. So the prior currently relevant verb here is not that evolutionary biologists analyze, but it's that this guy, an evolutionary biologist, has analyzed political opposition to evolution. Right. Cool. Let's compare two more. Let's compare is identifying, current temporary, and let's compare that to have been identifying, prior, currently relevant yet incomplete. For example, look at these two simple sentences. I am living in Melbourne. This is current and temporary. I'm currently living in Melbourne, but next week I'm moving to Sydney, right? Temporary, current. Versus this one, I have been living in Melbourne. It's prior because it's been happening, right? It's currently relevant. Maybe somebody asks you, where have you been living? You say, oh, I have been living in Melbourne but it's incomplete. I have been living in Melbourne for 6 months, but I'm going to live here for 1 year. So it's incomplete. It has a sense of incompleteness, of being unfinished. Whereas this one just has a sense of being temporary, current but temporary. Whereas I live in Melbourne has a sense of permanence. So please identify the current temporary verb. Current temporary, Eshwa. Temporary. Current and temporary. Oh, interesting. This is the first one that's just, I'm going to go back. Because not everyone got it right. So look at these two examples. I'm living in Melbourne. Currently, temporarily. I have been living in Melbourne. It refers to the prior, the past. It's currently relevant and it's incomplete. So please do this one again. Which one is the current temporary one? 1 or 2? Type in number 1 or 2. This is an interest. Good, much better, much better. This is interesting because it's a difficult one to conceptualize. Cool. So the answers are, this one's current and temporary. Driverless cars are increasing in popularity. So it's got a sense of being temporary. It's not permanent. They're increasing in popularity. Cool. Let's do the other one. Identify the prior, currently relevant, but incomplete verb. Number 1 or 2? Yeah, it's got a sense of being incomplete or unfinished. Good. Cool. Yes, good. Well done. So the currently relevant prior incomplete verb is have been receiving. Newborns have been receiving a vitamin K booster injection. Last one, then we're going to do activity. This is it gets this is a bit of a start to really become accurate with your verbs. You do need to understand what they mean and why we use is living versus live, for example. And you apply that to is eating versus eats. You can apply it to all verbs, but there's like a meaning behind the verb. Eat has its own meaning, whereby you put food in your mouth and you swallow, but there's a difference between eat, is eating, has eaten, for example. And that's a sort of secondary meaning, or maybe it's even preliminary meaning, the first meaning that you need to understand. Let's compare one more, then we'll do an activity. So let's look at the difference between these two. So have verbs, so have eaten, for example. Prior, currently relevant. So somebody says, oh, do you want to get some lunch? And you say, oh, I've eaten. So it's prior, but it's currently relevant. I have eaten. Versus prior, currently relevant and incomplete. So I have been eating. So you can say, oh, I've been eating this spaghetti for the last 2 hours. It's incomplete. I haven't finished the spaghetti. Look at these two simple examples. I have lived in Melbourne. It's prior, it's currently relevant. I'm not living there now. Or versus I have been living in Melbourne for 6 months, which is relevant but incomplete. So identify the prior, currently relevant verb. This is the one that's completed. Choose the one that is completed, that is finished. Which one is finished, is complete, is over and done with? It's relevant now, but it's over and done with. Cool, yes, well done. That's right. The one that's prior and currently relevant and complete is this one here. Ecologists have answered a tricky question. Cool. Let's just go back because let's compare. Ecologists have been answering a tricky question. This one's still going. It's still going. It's not complete. So that's why it's different there. Please identify the prior, currently relevant, incomplete verb. So good. So the difference here, humans have seen shooting stars for thousands of years. means that it's complete. So in fact, this is an incorrect use of the verb. It should be, humans have been seeing shooting stars for hundreds of thousands of years, because it's still happening. You can go outside tonight, if you live in the countryside, and see the shooting stars. Cool, so it's number 2. I forgot more. Okay, here we go. So now we've compared the 4 verbs. Now what I want you to do is use your knowledge of what we have just learned in terms of the meaning. And I'm going to give you 4 sentences. And I want you to, you can just type the verb if you want, or you can type the full sentence. Probably easier just to type the verb, but I want you to select the correct present verb. So you're going to have to think, you're going to have to decide between which one you're going to use. Are you going to use that basic verb, is verbing, have verbed, or has been verbing? Okay, they all relate to the present, but which one is correct according to the sentence? So I'll give you a couple of minutes. I've given you the definition here. So this one, you have to change this to the prior but currently relevant incomplete verb. This one, you have to change to the factual, complete and permanent one, for example. So please do this little activity. Good, well done, Osama. Got number 3, good. Dana, check number 2, because we're talking about the present. So it can't be produced, because that's talking about the past. Good, Bakavi, well done. That's looking good. Yes, looking really good. Yes, good, Marilyn, well done. So Jyoti, check your number 2. It's factual, it's complete, and it's permanent. Let's have a look on YouTube, see what's happening. Cool, well done. All right, good, cool. So how do we choose the right verb? Well, it depends on what we're trying to say, and it depends on the context of the sentence. For example, snails destroy crops for thousands of years. So we want something that goes back, because they have been doing it. Oh, there we go, I give it away. It's prior, it's currently relevant, and it's incomplete. Neurons produce thought and behaviors. So this one has to be a factual one, has to be complete, it has to be permanent. Untreated water make our kids sick. So this is going to be a current verb, but it's going to be one that's temporary, because we can fix it, right? We can fix this untreated water. It's not permanent. So we're going to choose a verb there that makes sense. Researchers discover a way to remove specific fears from the brain. Okay, it's going to be prior. So maybe they did it yesterday or last week or even last year, but it's currently relevant. So, number 1, snails have been destroying crops for thousands of years is the correct verb. Neurons produce thought and behaviors. That one didn't change, in fact, because it's factual and it's a permanent verb. Untreated water is making. This is the current but temporary one. Researchers have discovered. This is the prior but currently relevant one. Cool. Cool. Just type into the chat yes if you got all 4 of those correct. Good work. Well done. Good. Prudvi, Sujaya, Marilyn, Feng Hui, and Osama. Path might need a bit more homework perhaps. Cool. Good stuff. Let's do another one. Same thing. I've moved them around. Current, temporary. So this one's going to, sorry, this formatting's not good. This one's current but temporary. This one's prior but currently relevant. This one's prior, currently relevant, and incomplete. This one's factual, complete, and permanent. Cool. Good stuff. Right. Temperatures worldwide. Well, let's think about it. We've got 4 options because we're talking about the present. Temperatures worldwide change. Could be right, but we want to give this, we've given it a context where it's current but temporary. Could be temperatures worldwide are changing. It could be temperatures worldwide have changed. It could be temperatures worldwide have been changing. All of those are possible, but the meaning that we want to put inside this verb is that it's temporary. What about scientists found a new type of butterfly? It should be find. I should have given you the present one there. Scientists find a new type of butterfly. That's okay, you could say that. You could say scientists are finding a new type of butterfly. Yes, you could say that. Scientists have found a new type of butterfly. Yes. Scientists have been finding a new type of butterfly. All are possible, but we want to give this verb meaning, which says that it's prior but currently relevant. So only one of them will be. Cancer cures show promise. Possible. Cancer cures are showing promise. Possible. Cancer cures have shown promise. Possible. Cancer cures have been showing promise. Possible. But we want to show that this verb is prior, it's currently relevant, but it's incomplete. Therefore, we will choose one of those 4. Finally, sharks reproduce without having sex. Possible. Sharks are reproducing without having sex. Possible. Sharks have reproduced without having sex. Possible. Sharks have been reproducing without having sex. Possible. But we want to make this one factual, complete, and permanent, so we have to choose one of those 4 possibilities. The answers are temperatures worldwide are changing, current and temporary, because we can fix global warming, right? Hopefully. Scientists have found a new type of butterfly because it's prior and it's currently relevant. Cancer cures have been showing promise. It's prior, it's currently relevant, but the research is incomplete. And sharks reproduce without having sex. This is factual, complete, and permanent. Let's quickly recap. So when we're describing the present, there are 4 verbs to show present events, right? There's just the basic verb like identify, for example, which is factual, complete, and permanent. There is scientists are identifying, which is current but temporary. There is scientists have identified, which is prior but currently relevant. And scientists have been identifying prior, currently relevant, but incomplete. Cool. Oh, crazy verbs. Crazy verbs. Any questions? I'm happy with that one. That was good. Can I ask you, did that make sense? Was that a good lesson? Or was that too confusing and crazy? Cool. Cool. All right, good. Any questions about... Yes, Mihul says good lesson but need more practice. Yes. Cool. So good question there from this webinar will be on YouTube, so you can watch it again. Watch it again. If you want immediate practice, what you can do is just think about those, write down those 4 rules, right? Then go to a newspaper or a science magazine and look at the verbs and think about the meaning of the verbs and why the author has chosen that specific verb to convey that specific meaning, right? Cool. So some good questions. Divya asks, when to use past tense versus present perfect, as in I ate the apple versus I have eaten the apple. Good. We'll look at that next week because I'm going to do the same type of lesson, but we're going to look at how to describe past events. And the week after, we'll do the same lesson, but how to describe future events. And these 3 webinars will be all that you will need to get your verbs right. Right, yes, cool. Yeah, cool. All right, good. I might leave it there. Yes, practice. If you want to practice, watch this again on YouTube. Go to some sort of newspaper or science magazine and look at the verbs and look at the present verbs, those 4 verbs that I showed you, and think about the meaning. So Feng Hui's asks, Jay, what happens if we change have done to had done? Again, we'll look at that next week because the past is a little bit tricky. Thank you, Divya, for that information. Cool. See you guys soon. Hopefully that was helpful. Bye.